yes it does. There's a million stars, each for one every city.
Welcome to this edition of Cops Corner presented by the Urbana Police Department. I'm Officer James, and today's topic we're going to talk about all the recent shootings we've had in our community. To assist with that, I have these guests. I have Urbana's Police Chief, Patrick Connolly.
Hello.
I have Champaign's Police Chief, Anthony Cobb.
Hello.
I have Urbana City Council member and head of Breakfast Club, Aaron Minor. Ammons. I so apologize. So we all know that we've had some issues and a hike in shooting in our community. So Chief Connolly, what do you tell our community that we're doing about that?
Well, since June of last year, actually, we've had 78 reports of shots fired. 38 of those, we actually recovered physical evidence where there were bullet holes or there were shell casings, and 5 people in the city of Urbana have been shot. But for the grace of God, none of them have been killed. So it's clearly a problem that we are well aware of. Right. The good news is that we work incredibly close with the Champaign Police, the University of Illinois Police, the Champaign County Sheriff's Office, and collectively, we're trying to address the issue in a number of different ways. One is working with the community, but we're also working within the police departments themselves. Urbana, this I've said a million times, the Urbana police cannot solve all of these problems by themselves, nor can Champaign, nor can the Sheriff's Office.
Absolutely.
We need the community involvement. We need people to work together as a community to address the problems. Yes. So we're pooling our resources, and I'll let Anthony share a little bit more about that, but we're pooling our resources so that we can focus our attention on trying to reduce the number of shootings, especially with summer coming up. It's an issue that we're really concerned about. We're also working with a lot of the neighborhood watch groups. We just created another one over in the Scottswood area. The Sheriff's Office and the Urbana Police are collaboratively working on developing that new one. We had in a 4-day period 7 different shooting events where 17 kids were present in the 7 homes. Again, but for the grace of God, they weren't hit. Right. But that's the kind of stuff we need to avoid, and we need to stop. So we need to start working at it as a community.
Absolutely. Well, Chief Cobb, like Chief Connolly addressed, we work together as departments, Urbana, Champaign, County, U of I, even Rantoul, because they're on our dispatch channels now, correct? So what, can you tell us a little bit about what we're doing jointly to address this issue?
Certainly. One of the big things that we're working on now is putting together a gun task force. All of our respective agencies agreed to put resources to work together so that we can leverage our resources to go to where the crimes are happening at. They'll work throughout the Champaign-Urbana area, covering both cities as well as the outlying Sheriff's Office area that surround the cities. We believe this task force, working together using the intelligence gathered by all agencies, should be able to hopefully get in front of and combat some of this gun violence. We have identified several individuals who are directly involved with this activity. We want to hold them accountable. We want to make it difficult and very challenging for them to move through our community with weapons this summer. We're going to take a surgical approach in dealing with this issue. We certainly need help from our citizens and from our community to keep us going down the right path. So we're asking for citizens to continue to collaborate and work with us, to partner with us, and to provide information. When I think about the things that have transpired over the last year within the city of Champaign, I reflect upon the 8 homicides that we've had since last June to date. That's quite a few. That's very unusual for our area, for our community, and it's actually quite frightening. We want to stay on top of these issues. We want to resolve these cases. We're happy to report we have 4 of those cases solved. We still have 4 we still need to work through. When I look at these cases, and the vast majority of them, there were witnesses, first-hand account for things that have happened there, and some of these individuals have yet to come forward with the information they know about these crimes. So we're still asking our public to work with us and to help us so that we can resolve these issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. It sounds like a lot of work.
It is, it is.
Aaron,
Yes,
Ammons,
sir.
got that right that time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
from the community standpoint, I know you're on our Urbana City Council, but you also head up the Breakfast Club, which I had the pleasure to attend one of your meetings a couple weeks back. Can you tell us a little bit about how it's being attacked from that community-based area?
Well, from a Breakfast Club standpoint, I would open up by saying that the Breakfast Club was actually pulled together after the killing of Kewan Carrington in Champaign. And so that brought us together trying to do something along the lines of what we're talking about here today. And what we discovered as men is that we also had inner conflicts that we needed to address in the African American community amongst the men who were involved in various different activities, but weren't really communicating, sort of talking at each other, around each other, or having conflicts. And so we decided to take a internal process to resolve conflicts internally first, and then begin to work out in the community. And so we're still coming up with ideas and ways to build upon our ability to impact what's happening in the community. So we've come up with ideas like using some of the artistic ability of the young people in the community to create murals where they can be erected. We've talked about revitalizing and bringing back the softball games in Douglas Park and taking advantage of how it's been developed over there, the new baseball fields and the areas where you can walk and work out. We might have a pull-up team or something that Anthony and Chief Connolly could lead up.
Join that, right?
But doing some different activities outdoors. We're going to be taking some young men camping with the National Council of African American Men. We're going to be going on a camping trip on June 12th. We're going to take probably about 20 young people out there. We're trying to do what we can to do our part. We can't solve all these different issues by ourselves, and neither can the police department.
Exactly.
And I would add that, while our police departments are doing the best that they can to address the issues, from a preventative standpoint, most of what I have seen of police work is probably going to be on the back end, right? And so it is going to be, we're responding to a call that was given or something like that, and you're looking for a suspect who has, allegedly done something. So it's the community policing, or the community has to police itself in regards to this whole snitching type of notion that you think you're telling on somebody if they are doing something wrong or something like that. And I just want to say that I came from that culture. I understand that culture, and that if I'm involved in some illegal activity with somebody else, and I get caught and I tell on them, from my perspective, that's snitching. But when I see somebody doing something in my community that is illegal, that is immoral, that is wrong, that's going to bring hurt and tear down the community, and I address them about it and try to send them in a different direction, or bring in the necessary resources to address that, that's keeping my community safe.
Yes.
And so I think that's a real important component.
Today, I was at a Real Talk session at Centennial. And one of the kids brought up, because we've been doing these, what did they get out of it? One of the statements they made was that they saw the police officers through a different lens. Good. Because they had never really had a contact with police officers without the police being called there. Because we don't generally get called to people's barbecues. We get called because, something traumatic that happened. It's the worst day of somebody's life. That's when we get called to people's houses.
Can I just say that, I grew up in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. And, of course, everybody's heard the stories about Chicago and gun violence and also brutality, issues of quote-unquote police brutality. But I grew up as a junior police officer in Chicago, going down to Palmer Park, going through, I know that's really shocking to you, Chief. No. But I grew up being proud of having my little gold badge, plastic or whatever it was, and starting down that path. But I do think it's important for us to have conversations, and I know we don't have time to get into the whole thing here, about what happens to, in particular, a young black male who starts off on that trajectory, and then that perspective of the police changes. Why is that? I think that's a very important conversation to have, and you were sort of speaking to it about the Real Talk today, which sort of spurred that thought for me.
Well, which is interesting. That's something we definitely can look into for a future show, because we need to talk to our kids. We need to find out what's going on through their minds. There was, back to the topic, there was some things I want to talk about vaguely about when people want to call in anonymously, because when something happens, you know, we have things in place. We were talking about it at the Community Coalition meeting that we just went to recently, which was the
Crime Stoppers.
Crime Stoppers thing. And they explained in that it goes somewhere else. I mean, it's not even in the states where it goes, and then, you know, they end up finding out the information, and so it's no way for them to be tracked back down to them.
When it comes to Crime Stoppers, yes, Crime Stoppers is a completely independent organization from law enforcement. Crime Stoppers has their own board of directors. They're set up, but it's a national product. And pretty much when you call Crime Stoppers, the information that associated with your telephone call actually goes through servers. Those servers are routed through Canada. When information gets up there, it's scrubbed from the servers. When information comes back to the police department, it's sent on a different set of servers. So that when we get the information, we have no way of finding out who this information is from. It's done that way to keep the caller truly anonymous. Once the information is given to law enforcement, it's intelligence, something for us to act upon. So we ask for the public to be very specific about the information that they give. When they're specific about it and we're able to take the information and develop evidence out of it where we can make a tangible arrest out of it, long as the caller checks back in on their tip. If it leads to arrest, when they call, they're given the tipster number. When they get the status of and find that arrest has been made, then they're awarded some type of monetary award. The person is given a location where they can go pick it up. There's actually a local business here that I don't know the identity of.
Right.
No one in law enforcement knows, where it's very busy. They can go in there and pick it. All they have to do is provide that number and hand an envelope. So the individual will go in person. They can send a loved one. They can send anybody.
Right.
But they'll get, then all they have to do is provide that tipster number, and whoever provides it gets the monetary award. So it's very safe.
Beyond Crime Stoppers, though, you know, oftentimes at our community meetings, we hear all the time, I want to report information, but I'm concerned about retaliation, or I'm concerned about someone identifying me. And one of your shows may be having representatives from MedCat here, because the telecommunicators can actually articulate much better than us what the whole process is. But I can tell you this, oftentimes when you call 911 and want to report it, we would much rather, as a police agency, rather get some information. A person in a blue shirt is shooting a person in a red shirt, rather than no information at all. So MedCat will take anonymous calls. They're trying to get as much information, and oftentimes people get frustrated and say they ask so many questions. That's because the responding police officers need to have as much information for their own safety as they can have prior to arriving at a scene. But anonymity is something certainly that MedCat, and maybe one of your shows can be about the MedCat dispatching system and how it works. But Crime Stoppers is a great program, calling 911 and saying, look, I want to remain anonymous, and believe me, the police will still come.
Because sometimes time is of the essence.
Absolutely.
So you still can call and be anonymous without, you know, the public, a lot of people don't know that. I mean, I hear that too. I hear that, oh, well, you know, police gonna show up at my house. Even though I told them that, you know, I ain't want to come to my house, police gonna show up. I mean, we can contact you in different ways. You know, we can call you, you know, I mean, if it need be, we can email, but I mean, we'd rather talk to you verbally, of course. So, gentlemen, is there anything that you want to add before we close the show today?
Well, I think the community involvement, I've seen Aaron, you know, up at Hamilton on the Park. We had a series of problems up there. He and his wife were up there walking door to door, engaging with the community. The Community Coalition, in fact, we have a Walk as One coming up in June, where we're going to focus on Aaron's ward, as a matter of fact, up in the northwest part of Urbana and the northeast part of Champaign. We're going to kind of pool our resources once again. So the Community Coalition, for anybody out there who's interested in being a part of the solution, I think the Community Coalition is a great opportunity, and that can be found, just Google it, Champaign County Community Coalition.
I believe it's an open forum also, correct?
It is,
so
absolutely.
It's open to everybody.
Open to the
Absolutely.
public.
Well, you know, as alderman, I have learned in just this short period of time, you know, coming from the standpoint of an organizer and an activist, and then now coming into the role as a steward of the city, basically, right? I see more than what I was able to see before. And while I still hold true to some of my concerns, I understand the broader perspective, and I understand how important it is for the community to understand the process. right? So I'm a big proponent of not just the finished product. I really want you to understand the process to this, because then you can see it step by step and you can understand the whys and things like that and have a better understanding and appreciation for the role that these two individuals play in the community or anybody else who's out there trying to address these concerns. But we have to be very clear that poverty creates certain things, right? You know what I mean? So I think that there's an issue with creating legitimate jobs, good paying jobs, of course, education, all those different components factor into the issue that we have to address. Now, sometimes it's just some folks are going to be little knuckleheads and they're going to get in trouble and they're going to do things regardless of the opportunities that they have in front of them. Well, there's a place for those individuals and there's a group of people to address that, you know, but there's also some people who are sort of on the fence and they're looking for a way. And that's why I kind of really appreciate that you guys have been over there at the Real Talks at Centennial and stuff like that, because we need that engagement. I do think that the community involvement, the going door to door, sometimes it seems kind of cheesy or whatever, but the reality is that when you go door to door and you talk to people, they remember you, they engage with you, you start to build that rapport and that relationship, and that's huge in our community. And that's why getting out, doing more of the events and stuff in the community, I think is going to play a significant role in addressing some of the concerns and getting more people to speak up and protect their own communities.
I would agree. Correct. Anything closing from you?
I would agree as well. I think these gentlemen said it all well. The community coalition and the engagement is huge. Those are two things that we all need to be working towards. The more engaged we as law enforcement become and partner and collaborate with our community, the better off we'll be as a community. It's going to take all of us working together to solve our issues.
Thank you for coming on and giving us this information that our community needs. I learned something today. I'm sure people out here who are watching and listening learned something today. If you do ever have any questions or anything, you can email me at the email below your question, and we can possibly talk about it on a future show or maybe even have you on to discuss it on a future show. With that said, thank you for watching this edition of Cobb's Corner. Be safe.